Hello, friend, and welcome. This is day 11 out of 20 radiation. I'm actually recording this on the 12th, but don't tell on the 12th day. So the day 11 was I had radiation and chemo on the same day. Now, not big chemo. This is little chemo. At least that's what I've been calling it. Um, Big chemo is like a full day's worth, 7-8 hours. Little chemo is just a couple of hours. It's one drug, not 4 or 5. Well, it's one chemo drug. It's not 4 or 5 chemo drugs. So how it worked was that I went in and got started with the chemotherapy. The first thing you do is they take down your weight. You go in, you get settled into the chair. Let's see. Yeah, it's I'm a little less articulate than I would ordinarily be because I got a lot in my system right now. So yeah, you go in, you get settled in a chair. You get she does all the blood work. So I have a port right here. And so they take 2 vials of blood, which is 2 different sets of things they're checking for, which includes things like platelets and red blood cells and white blood cells and all of that stuff. So they can get kind of an at-a-glance view of where I'm at. Like when I was in big chemo, that put me into anemia pretty bad. And so they could see that in the blood work, and they could see that when my platelets were low and blah, blah, blah. There's a lot that they can tell by looking at that. I mean, the results go then into the system and I can look them over myself. But I always have to look up what the abbreviations mean because none of it, at a glance for me, I understand nothing because that's not my world, but that's fine. And so they got the blood work done. They got all hooked up and ready for the chemo. And then they give me a little cup and it has a Benadryl. It has a couple of steroids. Both of those are to help your body's reaction to the drugs, to keep that at a minimum. And then there was something else. I don't remember what it was. So the Benadryl kicks in pretty quickly. And one of the things that I have started to do because it's in the morning and it's before my usual breakfast time, and I didn't really get a chance. I was a little late getting up to get a proper breakfast. So I took some things to eat with me because for me, Benadryl on an empty stomach hits too hard. So I had a couple of things. I take a little packet of applesauce. These have become really handy, and it's not. I hate the whole individual serving plastic thing. There's so much plastic waste with chemotherapy. They're just throwing away so much stuff. It's horrifying. I mean, the cancer treatment, there is a spot in the landfill with my name on it. Oh, sorry, Lord. But one of the things that helps is that I take the drugs, that little group of drugs with applesauce. And that also, I feel like it makes sure that they get down there and that there's something with it down there so that, I don't know, your results may vary. I'm sensitive to medication. So when I take a Benadryl, I know I have to take it with food. So yeah. And chemo is a bigger deal than Benadryl, although Benadryl is harder, I think. I think the effects of Benadryl are harder than chemo. Okay, and then there's a half an hour between taking those drugs and starting chemo, so that the Benadryl and everything has kicked in by that time. So in that half an hour, I scooted across to the radiation department, got in, got out, got back in the chair, and then it was time to start radiation. Sometimes I say radiation when I mean chemo. So anyway, then it was time to start chemo, got the chemo out of the way, and then we're out of there. So yeah, saw the oncologist, had started the pre-game stuff for chemo, scooted over to radiation, came back, got the finished chemo, and then was out of there. So that worked out really well. I was a little worried about that because they only had an hour scheduled for chemo, and then had me scheduled an hour later for for the radiation. I didn't think that was going to work, but it actually did work out fine. Surprise, surprise, these people know what they're doing. I should never doubt these folks because this is what they do day in and day out. And they are very, very good. Very good. Now, the every experience and interaction that I've had at the Han Cancer Center at RMH has been amazing. Now, I've found some of the other stuff not quite as amazing. And I really had to, in places that weren't the Han Cancer Center, I've really had to advocate for myself. And I feel like I've done pretty well. You have to go into medical treatment with the belief that they work for you and you're not there to be told what to do. You are there to be your own advocate. You can't just let it all push you around. So, yeah, the Han Cancer Center has been amazing. So many really good people there. So yeah, that was how it went. I came home, the Benadryl just turns me, the last time, I slept for 4 hours when I got home. This time, I don't know how long I was down, but then the hard part becomes however long I sleep during the day after chemo, then that comes off of my nighttime. So even though I took half of an olanzapine, and I still couldn't get to sleep for a while. So yeah, when I take a Benadryl, it really kind of ruins it keeps me asleep during the day and makes it hard to sleep at night. So yeah, that's kind of that was the reason why I wasn't in yesterday, because it was just too, my energy levels were too low to pull this off, and I didn't have the house to myself. And in order to do this thing, I need to have the house to myself. So yeah, that was day 11 of 20. And it's good to be past the middle mark. Oh, symptoms so far. Symptoms, yeah. I have redness here. I have, it had been looking kind of brown under my armpit, but it's starting to look pink. It comes over. I know you can't, and I'm not going to whip off my my jacket, my whatever you call this thing, to show you. But yeah, it's really red along there, and there's actually even a line. Like the chemo comes to about here, and apparently doesn't get beyond that. So the swelling and everything kind of stops in a line right here, and then on my back there is a patch like this, and it's actually even kind of squarish. That's that's the shape of it, and you can see how pink it is back there. That one itches. And it's itched a little bit through here, but for the most part, I haven't had a lot of itching. This one feels like a sunburn, and I don't know if you can even, yeah. So that's the beginning stages. And I asked her, because I have read that this, and it feels very warm to touch. It actually has felt warm to touch before it started to show. So, yeah, this is definitely a sunburn coming from the inside out. I asked her about, is it normal for it to start this early? Because I've read that most of the redness starts at the end of the last week, and even after chemo is when that really starts to bloom. And she said, oh yeah, this is normal. And then I'm like, I could see by her face that that this was not quite. Yeah, I mean, she came out with it, and then you could see by her face that it something about, and I'm like, well, what aren't you telling me? And she said, well, actually, somebody with a skin like mine, and I'm super, super pale. And that it just, and she gestures to my husband. Now, if you put this much radiation in him with his browner skin, he would, nothing would show. And so because I am a very pale skinned person, I'm as white as they come. Yeah. This is not my favorite thing about myself. Anyway, that maybe I'll have a little harder time than somebody who's got a little bit more pigment in their skin. So you lucky people out there who are browner than me, which is pretty much everybody, it's going to be easier for you. So let's all be grateful that well, it is what it is. We're going to get through it. So I asked a few questions about the creams and all of that. I'm getting kind of low. So to go ahead and continue to use a medicated cream at night, and if I want to add another cream because I've got some dryness lower, to use that in the daytime, just not right before radiation. So we don't want to do anything that would like be greasy or something that would change how the radiation happens. So not during that time slot. Okay, so I think that's all the news that isn't. And I will turn right around and do the next video and talk a little bit about today's experience. So I will see you. I will see you again soon. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. You are in my prayers and you are in God's arms. Amen. Amen. Peace.